Hey guys, Mark from Gunpla Network, and today I'm bringing you a bit of a different video. Hopefully everything looks alright because I don't usually film myself in my room here. So today I'm going to be starting a small project aside from the reviews I do for GN called G Rescue or Gunpla Rescue. I've had a kit sitting on my shelf since I reviewed it a year ago or so. The high grade Bill Divers GM3 Beam Master, or the Cheese Master, as it was also called because of the orangey yellow colour scheme that it came out in. Now, whilst not the worst looking kit when it's just in a bare form, there is a little bit to be desired once you start bolting on all of these little bits to here, too much everywhere, too fiddly for me. And then they also left like a lot of bare surfaces. It's an older high grade, fair call. They did change some parts, but what you get with that, because you purchased this kit, you were also left with a ton of parts left over, like a full shield, extra backpack parts, waist joint parts, leg parts, a whole spare GM head, a rear waist skirt, plenty of stuff. So what I've decided to do is basically, I haven't even displayed this kit. It's been sitting in the box for a year because I just didn't like the look of it personally for me. Some people loved it, I'm sure, but yeah, and what you'll see is on my screen here, it's just going through a slideshow of images I've gathered. This is the RGM86R Nouvelle GM3, that's a custom that was in a side story, I believe, a manga, Gundam Sentinel. So there's plenty of custom GM3s out there. I don't mind some of the parts, I will reuse them, and I'll go through a list here that I've made. So when doing this sort of stuff, it's probably best to have a bit of a plan when you're going to start doing, otherwise you'll never have an end date for the project. It's like any project. I work in project work myself for work, and you set a start date, an end date, and then you set a scope, and this is my scope for the GM3 Beam Master. I'll go through it in a second. And you have an end date to set for yourself to finish it. Otherwise, you could just be there forever and never ever get it done. So, G Rescue for the GM3 Beam Master. I am going to ditch the hip-mounted Buster binders. Cool, way powerful, whatever. You know, they can shoot beams, they can attach to the Changeling rifle, which I personally don't like either, and increase the power output of that. But I'm more of a simple kind of weapons person. I don't mind the standard rifle that it came with. It has 2 beam sabers. I'm going to give it an extra knife. It had 2 sets of long-range missile pod and standard missile pod, or micro pods. It actually came with that as well from the original GM3, as well as I'm going to make a long gun. So we'll ditch those on the hips. We will leg mount. Where is it? The standard GM3 rifle with the adjustable hand grip. I'm going to create a leg mount for that to bolt onto. As you can see, I'm going to reuse the legs, and with these side covers for the legs, we can mount it there so it can store it like a, not on the hip, that's too far up, but reach down to grab for it there. Not too hard, there's already a hole in this side beam. I'm also going to attach on the left leg using a hole. Luckily, this is a leftover part. This is why, guys, when you buy the Build Divers Build Fighters kits, it's awesome because you get a ton of leftover parts. But when you buy a P Bandai kit, like when I reviewed the Gundam Influx, I believe it was, High New Gundam Influx. This had some blades. Oh, this is all unpainted, but including a cover for them. So what I'm going to do is take one of them, and that already perfectly fits there. There's really no modification needed for a knife for it. So another weapon. That's that point. I'm going to use the GM3 head, but instead of having the white, they'll probably all become one color or similarly colored. Instead of having this extra, well, like a 5th camera on the head or a long range sensor, because I figure that's okay, there's another camera on the back of the head. I will have a scope on the rifle, like the Dynamiz sort of setup. I'm going to clip that off and make that'll become more like the Hazel 2 head. I'm also going to add an antenna like the GPO1 had. Now we'll fix the seam line on the head, and we will make that piece insertable from below, so you can get rid of the seam line. We're going to use the stock GM3 backpack, and you might be able to see it on the screen up here. This, in theory, as a support machine, great that it has a antenna, but I'm going to use an antenna on the head so that I can put these. This was a Mark II style backpack. That's where I got that from. Obviously, the GM3 came later on in Double Zeta Gundam, was its first appearance, and then in Unicorn Gundam. So it had a Mark II style increased power backpack. I'm going to put the original verniers and beam saber mount on the top there, which in turn then, instead of leaving these looking blank on the side, will have power cables coming into them. Use the GM or Beammaster missile pods. Well, those are actually GM3 original missile pods. So I'm just going to detail those up. They're actually pretty detailed, front and back. Those are covers that just pop off to reveal long-range missiles. And I'll paint and detail those up. They don't even really need any scribing or anything, guys. So we'll keep those. I'm custom bashing from the Changeling rifle. I was not a fan. This just looks like uber garbage to me, guys. Didn't like it. I mean, you had to parts form it to get this up here, this down here, you know. So I may use this part of it, possibly this part up here, but leave the minigun off. I'm going to destroy it really, so maybe the handle. I've also found in my collection of parts from other kits, this was from a HG Runner E 2015. This was a parts giveaway from Bandai. So I'm going to use this as the base casing, and I'll either use, I've got some square evergreen styrene square tubing here for the rifle, or I've got some round as well, but it is a square one. I've also got parts left over from, you know, like for the hand grip and stuff. I could use this as the back end of it. Got this from the GNX Striker, which I didn't end up using a rifle for. Although that kit was another good example. It came with so many extra parts. I've still got runners for it sitting down there for legs, feet, weapons. Alright, so that's going to help me create my kit bash, a long gun, not really a sniper rifle, but at least a long range weapon. So this kit will have the ability to be short range, medium range, long range fighting for its deployments. Hands, I think it already came with a trigger hand as well as 2 beam saber hands, so that's probably alright on hands. I might have a couple of spare hands floating around from plenty of high grades I've built. If you keep all your stuff in a folder like I do, I cut out the covers, the guides, and the excess pieces I think I might need for the kit later on. Store them aside in that folder. I'll be able to look through and check. What else? We're going to trim like I said, the head camera down so it looks more like the Hazel 2. Add details using IC sockets to the feet. The rear skirt. Now I'm going to use the rear skirt from the original GM3 because I don't need the holes on the back. And I will detail it myself under there, and there. As well as possibly the knees, because the knees here are a little bland. Might be able to put a couple of side bits on there. And the backpack inside there. Now, what I'm talking about when I say IC sockets, if you're not a computer tech person, is these. These are computer parts. They're basically, you can order them online anywhere for like $1 for 20 or 30 of them or something. I went to my local JCar electronics store, and for these 2, which has about 20 in each line, that was $6, but I think if I went to eBay next time because I didn't need them in a rush, then I would, you know, pay $2 for 100 or something like that. So that's handy. I'll show you how to put these in. Basically, you clip off the black surround. Be cautious because they fly off everywhere. Now, if you install them like this into the backpack, that creates the look of a more detailed metal thruster part. Okay, very minor mod for that. Probably glue only, really. But here in the bottom, if you were to turn them around, trim down the back part, drill a hole with your pin vise, then that creates a mini vernier. So like on the knee there, into the bottom of the back skirt there, put like 3 or 4 of them. That's what we'll be aiming for with that. Around the missile pods up here, that'll just be straight painting because I'm going to use these medium range missiles, not the micro missiles. So that's a cool option part you can keep for later for another kit. Now, I mentioned using on the legs. The reason I was going to use this was not only because they've already nicely, Bandai provided me with a hole for mounting things on the side of the leg, they actually also, whoops, they actually also, compared to the standard GM3, now, if I was going to modify these ones, to get that as a separate part, I wouldn't have to mask off to paint. I'm going to have to cut that out. Maybe I still could. Maybe I could just put mesh in there. We'll see. This is actually already a separated part. So you can paint the vent a different color and insert it later. What I was also thinking was, on the back of the legs here, you can see these covers are actually quite large. So they lock in like that, and what they do is they actually also provide part of the back leg cover there. So if I might be able to cut it off there, yeah, maybe there, cut it off there, and I can use a magnet or glue that on. And then keep this as a removable piece so I could paint that separately and instead of joining it on. But we'll see. Take that off. Okay. Next up we have chain mesh. I don't have that handy right now, guys, but you can actually purchase from places like SMS, Hobbyco, your local hobby store, and I found it was actually under RC car parts, I think, when I looked at another website. It's like the, on the backpack here, you can see that, but that's molded as one part on the high grade. On the master grade Mark II, which I don't have handy, it's down in the cabinet now, that is actually a separate material piece that you put on there. So what I'm going to do is probably trim those off. I might even leave them as a guide if it fits. And I have some small 0.9mm, 1mm of a chain mesh that will give it a more metallic, you know, it's a black metal mesh, and that'll help give it a more, you know, detailed look. That's the stock GM3 head here. All right, pin heads. I've been wanting to do a tutorial on this, so I'm just going to fold it into here. You can buy screw detail parts from places like Kotobukiya and stuff, or I saw this used and I'm keen to try it. Seamstress pins. This container was $2 at my local grocery store, and that was Woolworths, and it's just got like a flat metal, like a rivet kind of detail to it. So what you can do is, once again, pin vise, drill through, place it in, drop a glue on the back, trim the excess pin with some metal cutters or some pliers with the cut in. Be careful, that will fly off and hit you in the eye if you're not careful. Maybe wear glasses when doing this, safety glasses. Then, yeah, that gives you screw detail. So I'm keen to try that because that is a much cheaper and easier option if you don't want to order parts online. Pin vise, God hand make these things now too. That's one I got on eBay I think years ago. But you can just get any screw, you know, drill bit from your local hardware store for those. You probably want the smalls, like a 0.5 0.8, 0.9, 1, 1.5, 2 millimeter, you know, assorted sizing. But like I said, I just realized that Tamiya make them. I think God Hand now make them. Hobbyco have those, and that is really awesome. So they weren't really expensive for a pretty decent looking looking glass. The other thing I have is lightly scribe armor. Now you can see there are the occasional lines here, there, but not a whole lot. I don't even think I really have any seam lines that are too bad here, maybe except for the shoulder piece here. I can see where it joins in the middle of a vent. The rest of it's not too bad. That's a separate piece. I'm going to use my where did I get the BMC Dymo to create the split armor effect there on the sides of the legs. Maybe there too. This I'll fix up as a seam. But I'm going to lightly scribe there, maybe across the chest above the vent there, back skirt, sides and above of the missile pods, and around the knees, because that's just so brilliant. But Hobbyco have these in stock. This is a Madworks. This is a line engraver, they call this one, but it is just a chisel. What it is, it's a shorter piece. You can get ones they call the chisel, which is what I first bought. So this is 0.15 mil, this is 0.2 mil, and you can see that this blade is much longer. So the difference between, and I only found this out myself recently, the green engravers, as they call them, and the black chisels, is that's a really long blade and this is a really short blade. Now both of them I actually use, you can buy handles separately for them from Madworks as well, but I found that they fit into my Tamiya knife handle, so I just unscrewed the blade, put them in there, and that's how I scribe. So these are really cheap. It's like $17 to $20 a chisel. I know, you know, if I had unlimited funding, I probably would have a full set of BMC chisels sitting here, but I know that they cost a ton more. I've just started scribing. I've scribed, my first kit was the Yak Doga last year, and that was horrible. Jagged, everything. I took my time. Ryan from Hobbyco showed me how to take my time with it and do it properly. And Josh Darrow, if you get his book, he can go on his website. He's got some technique tips and stuff in there too. You can use these, and I found that they work just as well, but a third of the price. So Madworks chisels, I'm going to use, because it's a HG, I'm probably just going to use the 0.15 for most places and do some light scribing everywhere, just to kind of break it up and give it a more detailed look, because that's what we want. And then that's it. It brings us down to the last point, custom paint job. So that seems like a really long list, but hopefully it'll only be about 6 videos, including this one. I'll try and do something in each video. I'll have a piece that's done and then a piece that I'm showing you how to do it on. And then at the end, we'll show you a fully transformed kit. In terms of decals and water slides, I think I have a few left over from previous projects. I haven't put them down here with me, unfortunately. They're up on a shelf. But that's it really, guys. So what we're going to do, my aim is to bring this thing back to something that I really want to you know, display in my cabinet. I can now try and test out all my skills that I've learned in the last year. I am probably going to use, I think I said, main colours for me are going to be the Insignia White from SMS, and which is kind of like not a pure white, like a off-white grey white. And I haven't used this one yet, but UNT's MS Grey from Mr. Colour. Paints, whatever's readily available to you. I can get these both pretty easily here. These are lacquer paints in my country, and I airbrush. But there you go, so that's the 2 colours. So mainly it's going to be Insignia White, chest, shoulders, stuff like that. We'll do the UNT Grey, and I might throw in some darker yellow. I think, yeah, probably this one actually, which is Mr. Colour 329 yellow. So those might be the colours. I'll decide later on. I'll have more of a look, and I obviously have some Aurora film for the cameras behind stuff like that to give it a more reflective look to it. You could always paint it silver behind the green screen, and that'll just help too. I've done that on some kits. Oh, metallics. Sorry, on the frame I will probably use jet black, and you put jet black down first, and then you put stainless steel over the top of it, and that gives it a dark metal looking colour. Now that'll obviously only be the joints, the hands, backs of the knees, the hip joint you can see in there, and maybe the neck piece. Backpack will probably be a matte black sort of colour, as I usually do. Alright guys, I'm pretty happy and excited to be starting this project, so in between reviews I'll try and work on it, and maybe by, what are we at? September, October, November, December. Maybe in the next few months up to Christmas I'll have this completed. Alright guys, thanks for joining me here on Gunpla Network YouTube. Remember to subscribe, hit like on the video, and leave a comment if you've got any suggestions for the kit. Maybe I can incorporate if you have anything you like or anything you want to see. And remember to check out all our other videos and our sponsors. Alright, thanks very much. See you later.